There's another component of this, Sean, which to me is maybe the most important because I care so much about our young people being able to afford a good life. A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had.
That was Vice President J.D. Vance lying on Sean Hannity's show last night, blaming immigrants for the cost of housing in the United States. So let's go through each part of his claim. First, the idea that there's an influx of immigrants leading to a dramatic rise in housing prices. Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies actually looked at both sets of data and found that the cost of housing began to rise before a recent surge in immigration. So it's not immigrants driving up the cost of housing. Then he talks about housing supply, and he says new homes must be built. On that front, deporting millions of immigrants, as the Trump campaign is promising, this is from 2024, could actually worsen the housing shortage. Seamus Roller of the National Housing Law Project said, that's because 1 in 3 workers in the construction industry are immigrants. So deporting millions of them could cause major headwinds for builders. Now, J.D. Vance wants you to believe that the same day laborers who stand in Home Depot parking lots trying to find work just to get by are also the same people who are buying up homes and driving up the cost. But by rounding up and deporting immigrants, the administration is directly undercutting one key remedy for housing costs. But what's another component here? Because the one thing that J.D. Vance isn't talking about is private equity. He'd rather people look anywhere but up. So real estate investors, both individual and institutional, bought 1/3 of all single family residential properties sold in the second quarter of 2025. It's an increase from 27% in the first quarter and the highest percentage in the last 5 years. Investors continue to own about 20% of the 86 million single family homes in the country. Investors, largely driven by private equity firms like Blackstone, which has an ownership interest in at least 274,000 homes in the US, are making all cash deals, outbidding actual families and driving up the cost of housing for all of us. In 2003, MetLife Investment Management found that institutional investors may control 40% of US single family rental homes by 2030. From the second quarter of 2020 to the second quarter of this year, the median sale price of a home in the US has jumped by nearly 30%. And you might think, oh, that was a different time. Okay, let's take the 5 years before that. From quarter 2, 2015 to quarter 2, 2020, the median price only grew 9.6%. So we've got a 30% increase since 2020, Cenk. Have wages increased by 30% since 2020?
Oh, no, they most certainly have not. So, guys, this is an old trick of Republican politicians. Whenever the bankers cause a massive problem, they come in and blame anyone else to try to distract you. It's a bag of squirrels. But usually, ironically, and honestly somewhat amusingly, if you think about it for a second, they love to blame poor people. In the 2008 crash, they're like, too many poor black people bought homes that they couldn't afford. It's black people's fault. No, it's absurd. It was collateralized debt obligations and risky derivatives by the bankers playing with trillions of dollars, over leveraged. The idea that it was the homeowner's fault was preposterous. And Fox News and Rush Limbaugh at the time said it over and over again. Now they're saying, no, it's not private equity that's driving up prices by 30%, even though Jordan just showed you definitively, it's definitely private equity. They're like, no, the guy who crossed the border a minute ago came with $280,000 and he bought up. Did he? If he has $280,000, why is he crossing the Rio Grande? Okay, no, it's absurd. Like, no, the immigrants that came in are coming in for opportunity. They don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy up 20, 30% of the homes in America. No, he's trying to get you distracted. Why? Because those same private equity guys are his donors. JD Vance is a wholly invented robot of the donor class, Peter Thiel and the bankers. And so since the bankers are doing this, his job is to protect the bankers. Now, the guy who agrees with us on this is Charlie Kirk. So Charlie, our first agreement with him when he was at the RNC, we again talked about it at the DNC, again talked about it at America Fest when I went to go see him there and we did an event together. We all agreed it's private equity that's driving up housing prices. So there are some honest people, and in the case of Charlie, unfortunately there was some honest people who are actually telling the truth about what's going on with housing prices. So is it the giant banks buying them up with cash? Or is it people with almost no money magically buying up 30% of the houses and driving up the costs? No, of course, it's the bankers. And in this case, it's not a question anyway. It's definitively the bankers. We just showed you the numbers. So don't get distracted by the squirrels. Politicians in both parties, and in this case, JD Vance, by the way, we're not even doing this justice. In that little segment, he had 3 giant lies about how Biden drove up the prices by 100%, but for houses, but Trump only brought them up 1%. I just lie after lie, right? And that's because he's desperately trying to protect his Wall Street donors. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.